You felt it before you understood it. The silence that came a second too late, the smile that stayed when your back was turned, the way conversations shifted the moment you stopped giving. Something was wrong long before it became obvious. And the truth is uncomfortable because it changes how you see every memory. They were never real with you. Not fully, not in the way you thought. Some people don't lie with words. They lie with presence. They show up just enough to be mistaken for loyalty. They mirror just enough to feel familiar. But nothing was rooted. Nothing was solid. Machiavelli understood something most people miss. Most relationships are not built on truth. They are built on usefulness. The world Machiavelli described still works the same. When you were valuable, you were seen. When you hesitated, you were questioned. When you pulled back, you became inconvenient. That wasn't confusion. That was calculation. You weren't betrayed in one moment. You were slowly deprioritized while believing you were still chosen. That is the most efficient kind of deception. They never needed to hurt you openly. Distance did the work. Neutrality did the work. Polite indifference did the work. And you kept interpreting it as misunderstanding because the alternative felt too cold. Machiavelli would never wait to be chosen. He knew that affection without alignment is temporary. Respect without fear is fragile. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both. That thought isn't cruelty, it's clarity. The people around you adjusted their behavior based on what you tolerated, not on what they promised. And the moment you stopped providing certainty, they stopped offering honesty. Notice how no one explained the shift. Notice how nothing was said clearly. Because if it were spoken out loud, the illusion would collapse. They needed you unsure. They needed you guessing. That way, you would keep filling the gaps with hope. This is what makes it sting later. Not the loss itself, but the realization that you were interacting with a version of them that only existed while you served a function. Once that function blurred, so did their sincerity. And deep down, a part of you already knew. You just weren't ready to see how early it started. Once you accept that they were never real with you, something else becomes clear. The confusion you carried wasn't weakness. It was engineered. People who benefit from you rarely announce when that benefit is fading. They soften instead. They delay. They become vague. They keep you close enough to extract value, but far enough to deny responsibility. That space is where doubt grows. You replay conversations. You question your tone. You wonder if you changed. But nothing about this was accidental. Machiavelli understood that ambiguity is a form of control. When intentions are unclear, the other person stays invested, trying to restore what was never promised. Think about how quickly warmth turned conditional, how effort became expected, but appreciation became scarce, how your consistency was treated as a given, not a choice. That dynamic doesn't happen between equals. It happens when one side is quietly measuring leverage. The world Machiavelli described still works the same. People reveal their truth not through words, but through what they stop doing when they feel secure. When they no longer need to impress you, honesty disappears first. Not because they hate you, but because they no longer need to manage your perception. That's the part no one tells you. Most people aren't cruel. They're efficient. They conserve energy for what serves them. And when you stopped being essential, you became optional. Silence replaced engagement. Politeness replaced depth. You weren't pushed away. You were left behind while being told everything was fine. That's why it lingers. There was no clear ending, no conflict to resolve, just a slow emotional withdrawal disguised as normalcy. Machiavelli would never wait to be chosen, because he knew that once someone questions your value, they've already moved you in their internal hierarchy. At that point, explanations are theater, reassurance is delay. The shift already happened. And the most dangerous part is realizing how long you defended them, how often you ignored the pattern because facing it meant admitting that the connection was never mutual, not in intention, not in depth, not in loyalty. You didn't lose them because you changed, you lost them because the mask slipped, and the moment it did, everything they were pretending to be collapsed, quietly, efficiently, without apology. They were never real with you. They were real with the version of you that benefited them, the version that listened more than it spoke, the version that didn't see the knives hidden behind relaxed smiles. Machiavelli understood something most people miss. Loyalty that depends on convenience is not loyalty, it is a transaction waiting to expire. Watch how fast warmth turns cold when there is nothing left to extract. Watch how silence replaces familiarity, how distance appears without explanation. That wasn't confusion, that was calculation. The world Machiavelli described still works the same. People do not reveal themselves when things are easy. They reveal themselves when the balance of power shifts. You felt it before you understood it. That subtle change in tone, the delayed replies, the sudden absence of respect disguised as neutrality. This is where most people lie to themselves. They call it misunderstanding, bad timing, miscommunication, anything except the truth, that the connection was conditional from the start. Machiavelli would never wait to be chosen because he knew that those who wait are already placed beneath the table. When you stopped being useful, you became invisible, and invisibility is the cleanest form of rejection. They didn't attack you because predators don't waste energy on prey that no longer moves the way they want. They simply stepped back, masks in hand, blades out of sight, letting you stand there wondering what you did wrong. You did nothing wrong. You just stopped playing blind. And that moment, when awareness replaces hope, is the moment the entire structure collapses. It is better to be feared than loved if you cannot be both, because fear does not pretend. Love without respect always does. What hurts is not their absence, it is the realization that the bond never existed the way you believed it did. You replay conversations, gestures, shared moments, searching for the point where it broke. But it never broke. It was hollow from the beginning. They mirrored you because mirrors are useful, not because they cared about what they reflected. Machiavelli understood something most people never want to accept. People align with strength, not sincerity. And when strength appears uncertain, alignment disappears without drama. Notice how no one explains, no one confronts, no one closes the door properly. Real endings require honesty, and honesty was never part of the agreement. They were comfortable while you carried the weight, while you absorbed doubt, while you made things easier for everyone else. The moment you paused, the moment you stopped overgiving, the silence arrived like a verdict already decided. The world Machiavelli described still works the same. People test boundaries quietly. They measure how much they can take before resistance appears. When resistance shows up, even softly, respect is revealed or withdrawn. That is the part most people miss. You weren't abandoned because you failed. You were discarded because you no longer fit the role they assigned you. Machiavelli would never wait to be chosen because being chosen implies dependence, and dependence is always punished sooner or later. Think about how quickly warmth turned into distance, how familiarity faded into formality, how your presence became optional overnight. That transition was rehearsed long before you noticed it. They were never real with you. They were managing you, and management ends the moment compliance fades. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both, because fear respects reality, while false love survives only in illusion. What you are feeling now is not loss, it is clarity. And clarity is dangerous because once you see it, you cannot unsee who stood there smiling while waiting for you to stop mattering. Once you understand this, the past rearranges itself without asking permission. Faces you trusted start to look different, not evil, just calculated, just selective with their loyalty. You realize how often agreement appeared exactly when you were useful, how support showed up when it cost them nothing. Machiavelli understood something most people are taught to ignore. People don't betray suddenly, they reposition slowly. They distance emotionally long before they disappear physically. That is why the silence felt colder than any argument. Silence is efficient, it leaves no fingerprints. The world Machiavelli described still works the same. Power never announces its movements. It simply shifts weight and waits to see who collapses under it. You thought shared history meant protection, but history only matters when it still benefits someone in the present. When it stops paying, it becomes dead weight. Notice how no one checked on you when things went quiet, how curiosity vanished the moment your value was unclear. That absence of concern is the answer you were never meant to hear out loud. Machiavelli would never confuse familiarity with loyalty because familiarity is easy to fake and loyalty is expensive. What unsettles people like you is not cruelty, it is precision. They didn't hurt you emotionally, they removed you administratively. No anger, no drama, just subtraction. And subtraction feels personal when you believed you were essential. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both, because fear at least forces acknowledgement, while false warmth evaporates the second it is tested. You were not imagining the shift, you were late to notice it. They adjusted their behavior long before you adjusted your expectations. That gap is where confusion lives, and confusion is what keeps people doubting themselves instead of recognizing the pattern. They were never real with you, not because they hated you, but because reality was never required as long as usefulness filled the space. What happens next depends on whether you keep listening the same way or you start listening differently, not louder, not harder, just colder, sharper, more precise. Once you truly see how easily people switch masks, you stop asking why it happened and start noticing when it always happens. Machiavelli would never waste time confronting what has already revealed itself. He would adjust position silently and let behavior finish the confession. The moment you stop explaining yourself, something subtle shifts, conversations shorten, promises become rare, intentions stop hiding. Fewer voices surround you, silences grow heavier, and what remains carries weight. That is not isolation, that is filtration. The world does not reward those who chase clarity, it rewards those who remove access. You were never meant to be understood by everyone, only to be respected by the few who sense restraint and distance. Respect forms the instant people realize you are no longer available for casual use, emotional convenience, or borrowed strength. If this realization feels uncomfortable, it is because awareness always arrives before control. Machiavelli understood that power does not announce itself, it withdraws and watches. It is better to be feared than loved, if you cannot be both, because fear remembers, while affection fades without warning. Pay attention to what lingers after the words end, to the tension that does not dissolve, to the quiet realization that some connections were never real, only tolerated. That feeling is not fear of them, it is recognition of yourself. And once recognition settles in, the game does not end, it simply becomes visible. Stay here a moment longer, not for reassurance, but because those who see clearly never move the same way again, and those who move differently are never mistaken twice.